Hello, welcome to this communication and thank you for passing by. My name is CIDECS. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Madeira in Portugal. I'm also a researcher at the Research Center for Tourism, Sustainability and Wellbeing from the University of Algarve, and I'm also a collaborator, researcher with Ocean at the University of Madeira. So today what I'm going to be speaking is about teaching positive psychology through positive psychology. Today we understand, in giving just a little bit of theoretical background to this communication, today it's understood that active methodologies are maybe one of the best ways of teaching because it brings a lot of positive benefits to students but also for teachers. It creates a positive environment, students feel more engaged, and the learning occurs better, with a better flow, if you can tell. And also it's a way of bringing more enthusiasm, more motivation to the classroom and to the object of what we are teaching and the students are learning. In this sense, I think it's very important also to highlight the idea of what is positive psychology on this communication particularly. So positive psychology is one of the ways of putting it, and one I like a lot is the science of well-being. So it is kind of recent field, but it's very interesting because it focuses on what we have of good in us. It has also spread to a different subfields, if you can say, and positive education also is an important idea, an important field or setting for this science. So positive education is kind of the idea of bringing well-being and flourishing also to our schools and schools community in general. So what does this have to do with anything of my communication today? The truth is, what I'm trying to bring here is how can we merge active methodologies with the teaching of positive psychology through the own principles of the science. So we are in a time where uncertainty is kind of our day-to-day now. Even after the COVID pandemic, we are still on this uncertainty. What will happen? If something of COVID taught us, is that we need to be prepared, but we also need to prepare ourselves. And schools and education is a good place to prepare ourselves for our future, even if we don't know what it is. And focusing on well-being is very important because we need to take care of us first of all. We need to teach our students how also they should treat themselves to feel good and still learn and still feel great and still be excellent citizens when they go outside to the society. It is important also here to acknowledge that the OCDE designed one of the projects for the future of education 2030, and on its model, well-being is well featured. So it's one of the main goals is to bring this to schools. So my question is, okay, it's important for little kids, it's important for teenagers, but what about higher education? I do believe this is very important also to teach our young adults, sometimes older, but young adults, how can they feel better on the school environment and how they can bring this to outside the world, outside of the university. So what did I do regarding this? Well, I have I gave a class for the last 2 years. That is a class called Positive Psychology on the Masters. And this class is very interesting because we should teach about what is positive psychology, the different concepts associated, different theoretic methods, etc., etc., etc. And I decided to do something that for me is not that kind of common. It's to kind of bring positive psychology to the classroom. And how did I do this? So throughout the semester, I prepare activities that were trying to be based on positive psychology principles. I also focused on some concepts that I think are very important to understand the whole of what is the science of well-being. For example, concepts such as savoring, grit, flow, the importance of gratitude, and even optimism. Also aligned with these concepts, the biggest, I think, theoretic model at the moment, for me at least, is the PERMA model, which is designed by Martin Seligman, which is the main person of the father, if you can tell, of positive psychology. So how could I teach this without being kind of boring and bring an environment that was positive, that could bring more enjoyment to the students? So I prepare each class with one of these concepts, one of model in mind, and the students engage in them. Well, I think one of the best activities that was developed was asking the students, without knowing the purpose at the beginning, to write a positive message in little papers, post-its, whatever they had at hand, and then distributed them throughout the university. So to people who they didn't know, to people who they know and they found on the corridors, and they should distribute it and wait for the reaction. So this was something that engaged the students, gave them a perspective, okay, what we could do in practice, and also made them feel good, while also learning something about positive psychology. So this was one example, and this is the idea that was that occurred throughout the semester. At the end of it, and this is kind of my perspective, and this is really an after it reflection of mine, this presentation, because I was thinking, okay, did the students really learn? Did they like it? Because we all know that people learn sometimes different than others, and I wanted to see their perspective. So at the end of the semester, I asked them what they thought about it. And interesting, what I got from this kind of focus group discussion, informal discussion. So the students, the majority of them told the classes were very engaging. Some of them said they came to the class waiting to see what was happening on that day, very enthusiastic about it, to see what I had in mind for that day. They also felt that they could learn, and they felt they learned better with this, instead of just presenting PPTs with theoretic backgrounds and giving that kind of lecture. So it was a very positive feedback from the students, and also from my perspective, it was very interesting, because at the beginning, when I explained what I was planning to do in the classes, how they were going to develop, I saw a little bit of resistance on them. But throughout the semester, the class really became lighter, even for me. It was kind of good to go to the class and give this class and engage with the students. So on my part, it was kind of a win-win. I like it. It was so much easier, and also it was so interesting to see that on each class I asked what had happened on the day before, what had they learned, and they could remember it, and that was the biggest win for me. So trying to conclude this presentation a little bit, this is really my perspective, and my next plan is to actually put this on paper and actually develop this as a project to evaluate scientifically with instruments, to see if the engagement with this kind of classes really does make a difference in kind of quantitative way. So what I get, and I think what I can give to this presentation for you to following this this example, is that positive psychology and or positive education can be very important to the class. We can teach these principles with its own principles, but we also can teach something else, using activities based on positive psychology, in that way bringing not only well-being to the classrooms, but also activity in the sense of interaction, on the sense of more dynamic classes, and bringing richer learning experiences. The classes can be interesting. We can bring this part of positive psychology. We can feel better when we go out of our class as teachers and our students too. So it is important to understand too that in higher education we also need these classes to bring a little bit of flourishing to them, to bring a more balance and social emotional development on our classes. We do have students who struggle, and when we have this kind of interactions and we learn by having fun, it brings more enjoyment. It also brings more positive emotions to us, and I think students got more engaged. They went with the flow, and they develop better relationship even with one another. They learn better about them. So I encourage you, and I think with this presentation, is that we can really bring strategies simple to different classes, even with different topics or syllabus. And we can also bring and help our classes to flourish, and at the same time help them to learn and we to teach. So thank you so much for being here and listen to my presentation. Bye.